There's something happening here with this and I'm going to attack it real quick. No one had them on the market, so I patented my design. I put them up. My goal was to sell 10 and I sold thousands of them. Felt very blessed that I, was able to carry myself through the pandemic and save money and help other people. It also taught me that I am a behind the scenes kind of girl.
Welcome back to the Aaron Dodge Show. It has been a while since I've been back. I started with the Self-Awareness podcast in 2019. And at the end of last year, I was called to start podcasting again. And I am so excited to be back and excited to have you here as well. Today's guest is originally from just outside of Kansas City. After a short stint at Missouri, she headed out to Los Angeles, where she graduated from FIDM, the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising, remembered that, and has now spent 11 years in LA. She has worked with some pretty cool jewelry brands and has now landed an amazing job with an amazing brand here in Los Angeles. And she also has her own jewelry brand as well called Billy Simone Jewelry. Please welcome my partner in crime, the love of my life, Chelsea Moser. Can't believe I got all that. Was one take.
That was really good, honestly.
I'm sweating. My upper lip is sweating.
I feel very hyped.
You have to be.
That was a great hype speech.
It's you. So I wanted to resurrect my podcast, and there is nobody that has been in my corner doing that and cheering me on and wanting me to get it back out than you. And so I figured none other than Tooties to be here as my first guest. So I feel like we're going to talk about a lot. We're going to bounce around, but the cool part about this podcast is that I get to hear about things we've been together for over a year now, so I might find out some new things, but I'm basically going to know everything. But a lot of my followers and people that are going to listen to this podcast don't really know the full story of how you got out to LA and kind of what kind of has transpired in your life. So I'm excited to hear more about that. So tell me about yourself and tell me about Kansas City and where you grew up.
So I grew up in a small town called Liberty, Missouri, and it was pretty small, but also very large at the same time. Grew up in a really old house. It's over 100 years old on a cobblestone road next to a bank that they used to do like Jesse James reenactments. Well, I graduated early from high school. Started there.
How early?
A semester. So in January of my senior year, I started college, which was really cool because I was a loser in high school. And so then I got to college and everybody wanted to be my friend. They wanted to come visit because I could do stuff on the weeknights, and now everyone wanted to be my friend. Went to college, was a chemistry major, worked in a blood lab where you when you get your blood sent for testing. I worked at the place that it was sent to. So that was really fun.
Interesting.
Was terrible at school.
Why?
I partied a lot. Like a lot. I had a 0.8 GPA.
Okay.
I was there for 5 semesters and they pulled my student loans because I was not doing well enough for them to continue funding me to go to school. But
I think that was a great decision.
In the third quarter, when I hit the 0.8 and they gave me a chance to redeem myself, I definitely did. It was just too late. That's when I took a fashion course.
You took a fashion course at Missouri?
Yeah.
And that's what spurred you wanting to...
Yeah, my parents were like, take basket weaving or take something to offset all the chemistry classes because I'm like a all or nothing person. So I load everything in, as you probably know this about me by now, load in like calculus, organic chem, inorganic chem, like whatever all the other classes were. I load them all in because I just want to get done. And then I overload the brain and you just can't keep up, in addition to partying, of course. So my mom's like, take basket weaving or something. So I took like an intro to fashion class, and I sit down on the first day, and the teacher's like, puts these 2 shoes on the board, and she's like, which one's a knockoff? You get extra credit. And I'm like, I'm going to start class with points. Like I'm negative points in every class. And I was like, this is easy. It's the left one. And then I had this whole epiphany sitting in this lecture hall about how, wow, you can go to school for fashion. Like, I just didn't know. My parents, didn't, I mean, maybe my dad went to college, but they don't really talk about it. And I didn't have a lot of college guidance. Like in high school, the counselor's like, well, what are you good at? And I was good at math and good at chemistry. And so I was like, I don't know. And I ended up there, and it was so wrong. So then the fashion class, I started taking sewing classes, and I got like a 4.0 in my 4th semester, but my average was too low for it to do anything. But yeah, my whole life changed. I started going to like sewing class and pattern making class. And then I started Googling schools because I'm like, I'm not going to do this with all these like average fashion people. I have to go big somewhere else with like run with the big dogs. So then I requested information for a school, FIDM in LA. And I would have probably never pursued it, but then the people start calling you. Next thing I know, my mom and I come out to tour the school and tour LA, and we get harassed by homeless people. And I'm like, yeah, I want to move there. And
what about, I mean, obviously those were all negative things you just said, but why did you take the jump?
Because the school felt like something I wanted to learn. Like I partied a lot at Mizzou, but I feel like it was also because I wasn't interested in what I was doing.
I can see that.
And so now I found something when I can sink my teeth into something, it's game over. And so my mom's like, well, you have to wait a year to go. So she made me work for a whole year to make sure it's what I wanted and save up money and sell my car. And she said she'd help me with rent, or I could go now and figure it out. So I waited a little bit.
What did you do for work when you waited? What did you do to stack cash?
I was a waitress. Nice. And I worked at a boutique, and I worked at the blood lab. I had 3 jobs.
But you weren't going to school at that time?
No.
Okay. So it was like a off year to work and stack cash.
Yeah. It might have been a little less than a year. It was just like, she's like, you have to wait till next fall. And I think
just so everybody knows, we're 5 years apart. And so this is, at what point of your life is this? How old are you, and what year are we sitting in?
Well, I moved to LA in September 2011.
Okay.
So it was right before that.
Okay. So this is 2010.
Yeah, so I saved up a ton of money, sold my car. My mom shipped me 16 boxes, and Chicken and I got on a one-way flight.
But let's talk about how you switched from Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising. When you graduated from there, did you do any sort of fashion jobs before you got into jewelry? Or when did the epiphany from fashion to jewelry shift?
I couldn't find a job. So I was working with a staffing company, and they would call me about some jobs. Some of them were, the minimum wage was like $12 an hour, and it was literally not enough to pay rent. Like even at 40 hours a week, I wouldn't have been able to even just pay for the roof over my head, let alone water, because there wasn't any clean water in your apartment. So I would have to turn down jobs. And then she called one day with a job, a design assistant for jewelry. And she's like, it's the same thing. It's just you draw jewelry instead. And I was like, all right, well, great. I drew a lot of clothing. I was really good at drawing clothing on the computer,
cool.
Like on Illustrator and Photoshop. And so I always thought I'd be a sweater designer, which makes a lot of sense because I like live in sweatshirts.
Yes. Brand new Gildan.
Yeah,
right
Gildan.
Gildan. Got it. Is that the European way
Yeah,
to say it?
it's the bougie way.
This podcast is not sponsored by Gildan.
Yet. And so I always thought I'd be a sweater designer. And then she's like, you just draw jewelry. It's the same thing. And I'm like, I don't even know what jewelry is, because when you have, when I had like $20 to shop, which was never, but when I did, I was buying a shirt or like something that like you could see more than just like a necklace or something. And that job was at Lucky Brand, actually. It's like a nice little corporate thing and temporary, but they kept hiring me back for a long time. And then after that fell into a full-time. They couldn't hire me full-time. A few years down the road, we like circled back to the opportunity, but another company hired me for jewelry, and then I just stayed in jewelry. I have like along the way had a few like in between project situations, and I've gotten some cool little graphic jobs that keep my drawing skills sharp. I did some like private label design for Target, and some other like Buckle and Tilly's, and it's like a private label that, you know, wholesales to all these big box retailers. So that was cool, seeing like prints and things I made at Target.
That's cool.
But other than that, it's just jewelry.
And what kind of roles have you held when you first got out of Lucky? Like what kind of roles were you holding at those?
I feel like my job has always been the same, but at a different level of difficulty it's like progressed along the way. Like I started as an assistant, not assistant designer, but design assistant, which means you just help with what the designer, you're not designing. And then I found that I was working for a lot of brands, assisting the owner, who's normally the designer, bringing their designs to life. So you get a little bit more responsibility. It's in jewelry, you don't have a lot of companies where, you know, there's a senior designer and an assistant designer. You don't have like a big department unless it's as big as like a Lucky Brand. So I find myself like working really closely with the owners to help them with their design. And then that kind of translated into production. So now I still assist with design because it kind of goes hand in hand, but now I just help companies produce their designs. And I say this in the nicest way, but I don't really care what they look like. I'm just here to help you get them made. Jewelry is personal. I would say it's not as personal to me. I'm just here to help you make it.
Yeah.
Well, so now my full-time job is helping a fine jewelry company that's based here in Los Angeles. They do luxury retail and wholesale. And then I still have my own little jewelry line that I sell online.
When did you start your own jewelry line? And tell people where the name came from, because where the name came from is pretty cool.
Oh, well, the name is Billy Simone Jewelry, and my parents wanted to name me Billy, and that was a thing for a while. And then when I was born, my mom freaked out. She thought I was going to get bullied growing up. Because she says, you don't know what your kid's going to be like until your kid turns into a human. And yeah. She's like, you don't know if they can handle it or not. Now that I'm older, or like as soon as I started growing up, she wished that she kept the name. Yeah, it would have been like, you can call me BS for short. It would have been dope.
That would have been, talk about fitting the personality of the kid.
Yeah.
You would have crushed it.
Yeah.
So how long were you Billy Simone? Like, is it hours or was it days?
I think it was just a couple, like the first day.
The first day.
But my dad had all girls. And then I was I'm the youngest. So he wanted his name to carry on. And my dad's name was Bill. So that's kind of where it came from. So now it's like my little alter ego, and that's the name of my jewelry line. And it started 2019, maybe 2018. I feel like it had phases. It was like I put it up with jewelry that was all under $50 because I was broke, and like that was what I could do. And then it kind of died for a little while. And then I started getting my like footing again, and I designed a my first gold and diamond collection that was self-funded, which is a big deal. And it kind of grew from there. And then the pandemic hit, and I came out with a mask chain, and then that was a viral thing.
Okay, we gotta step back about this. So you said you had this idea at like 3 a.m. Like it was just like an aha moment. Did you struggle when you took your mask, like your face mask? Did you have this idea before it like popped into your head, or was it literally like a light bulb situation?
Oh, I waited in line at Trader Joe's and then got to the front and didn't have my mask.
So it wasn't really like somebody dropping their mask and holding it there.
No, it was like, where am I going to put it? Like, how am I going to remember this thing that now I have to remember, or like you can't remember, like
into places.
Yeah, it was, a thing that you just don't think about because it was so new.
Yeah.
And so I was like, man, I needed to like figure there's something happening here with this, and I'm going to attack it real quick. And so, yeah, it was like the middle of the night. I was like, I got to make it like removable, and because the mask has to change, because you got to, now I'm like, oh yeah, you got to clean them, like, or throw them away and get a new one. Like, because no one knows what they're doing at this point.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, man, I'm going to put on a necklace, like a chain, and make it cool. And then I put jewelry clasps, like necklace clasps on each end. And I'm like, all right, this is fine. And so I wore it like that. And I'm like, there has to be a better way to do this. So I started coming up with like different ends for it, because I'm like, other people are going to come out with this. And that was the first idea. So everyone's going to come out with that. So I changed the ends. I actually use like hoop earrings so that you could just open them and then close them.
Okay.
So like men could do it too. And no one had them on the market. So I patented my design.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And then, the power of like word of mouth. I put them up online. My friend was sewing masks at the time. That was like her COVID hobby. So we connected and we were selling them together. I put them up. My goal was to sell 10, and I sold thousands of them.
Like full operation, like full, like.
Yeah, this place was nuts.
Like full pandemic.
My old place, actually, too.
Full pandemic business, like came out of nowhere, like friends helping you, like make these chains like as quickly as possible.
And then I was doing outdoor workouts at my gym, and the couple of the instructors bought them. And then a girl that goes to the gym, she's a very good friend of mine now, works for a silk mask company. So we met in the parking lot, like a blind date. We connected on Instagram, and she's like, you want masks? And I'm like, yeah. And I was like, you want a chain? She's like, yeah. And so then we met in the parking lot and like did a little social distance exchange. And her company helped me. We did a collaboration, and we actually got them into Bloomingdale's, which was fun. It was really cool. It was a very surreal experience, to say the least.
Surreal in what way?
It was very cool, and it just taught me. I mean, I felt very fortunate because I was able to carry myself through the pandemic in a job that I thought, when the pandemic started, I thought, oh, this is why your parents tell you to go into medical, because it's like a safe field. And I thought I lost my job. I thought I was moving to my parents' house. So it was just, I felt very blessed that I, was able to carry myself through the pandemic and save money and help other people, like my friend with the masks. And it also taught me that I am a behind the scenes kind of girl. I didn't really enjoy like all the
Your face.
just like the being in the front.
It's so funny because that's the kind of person that like your kind of quietness is kind of like when I saw your dating profile and like your website, and like I was like, she kind of seems like she's behind the scenes.
Yeah, I'm a behind the scenes kind of girl.
But now you're like, when are we dancing on TikTok?
Yeah, but
next?
I'm still not going to speak on my Instagram. Sorry.
Facts. You're just supposed to boon to board.
Yeah, I literally would never speak to my camera. It's like mortifying for me.
We're going to work on that. Oh, are we going back down?
Yeah.
Since we've never taken an alcoholic shot together. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that. Were you weren't completely done with alcohol when we started talking in 2021, right?
I had started sober October. Right.
So we matched on Hinge on October like 3rd, 2nd or 3rd. Sorry, Mike. I'm forgetting your wedding anniversary.
Yes.
Okay, so you just started sober October.
Yeah, I wanted to give it a month. I was like, let's see. But I will say, I've been a sober, curious human for a very long time.
Yeah.
And the guilt, I'm sure a lot of people deal with like next day guilt. But for some reason, I like to put mine in a category that was higher than the average human.
That's exactly why I stopped drinking alcohol many years ago. Or not many years ago, but reduced my alcohol intake probably 4 or 5 years ago.
It's kind of effed up, but I had this. Am I allowed to say that? It's kind of effed up.
Yes.
It's kind of effed up that I was like, I had anxiety about how do you date as a sober human.
Because
I'm like I said, I'm a behind the scenes girl. I'm a little awkward, and like when it comes to meeting someone new, a job interview, like anything with like unfamiliar people, I don't know how to do it. And it's alcohol, a drink is a great way to start it. Or it's like, what do you do? Go to the park? I don't know. Like
coffee date.
Yeah. Or a coffee date.
I feel like a lot of people have that, and also, I mean, I was like the reverse of that. I was, the girl I'm asking on a date, she's going to want to loosen up or feel unawkward by consuming some sort of alcoholic beverage on our date. I'm not going
That's
to.
Interesting.
So now it's weird. Now the person that I asked on the date is now like, oh, you're not going to get a drink? Well, now I feel weird. We're on a date. I'm consuming alcohol. You're not consuming alcohol.
Well, and that's probably even more weird because you're a male. Like, it has to be weird that like a girl is drinking and a male is not. I don't know why.
But I
didn't think about that.
I can't remember if like the last couple of dates that I was on before we met, if I was like letting them, I don't think I ever let anybody know that I wasn't going to be consuming alcohol on our date, but like I was pretty seriously not going to do that. And so it was kind of there. I just remember there being awkward times where she was like, you're not gonna, do you mind if I get a glass of wine? And I'm just like, oh no, like by all means, please do. But I know that's,
I feel like I would have been very uncomfortable that date.
So Hinge is a better thing that we matched.
Yeah, I feel like it kind of, it's cliche, like things happen for a reason, but I feel like it all just kind of worked out. Like I was a week into sobriety, I guess. I think I started a few days early. I remember my last drink before it was with my good friend Tasha after we went and looked at engagement rings. none of them were big enough for her. but after that, I had my last glass of wine with her, and it was like a few days before the end of the month. But then we started talking, and I've said this before, but just to reiterate, I don't know if I would have swiped on your profile if it said that you were sober. Your profile, because there's something intimidating about it.
Well, I also like to preface very clearly that I think that the word sober is sacred. So when I say sober, I don't ever say sober. I just say like alcohol free.
I think your page said sometimes.
Yeah, I don't really drink, and I haven't had an alcoholic drink in July will be 2 years.
Yeah.
And honestly, I knew that if I had the phrase never then on my profile, I knew that I think it was going to be an opportunity for me to be explaining what my relationship with alcohol was.
It would change the pool for you too, I feel like. Yeah. The selection. I don't know what it would be. It would just be a different selection. And so honestly, I feel like at the end of October I just like kept going.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of that had to do with you, but it was also, I think it takes one night, like going out with your friends and staying sober. Like I thought it would be weird and really hard. And then there's something really like hot and powerful about it, that you kind of feel like a boss in the room, and you kind of like you have the right to judge people because you're not doing that. And then there's nothing as amazing as the next morning.
That was 100%. That's the kicker. That is the time.
I still order pizza in bed, but like it just hit different.
That is a time when it shifted in my eyes when I started valuing the next day over the 3 to 5 alcoholic beverages. It's like we're all having a good time. And it's like, it's 11:45 at night. We're dancing. We're having a good time. Do I really need to have like beer or alcoholic beverage 2, 3, 4, and 5 after 11:45 and then be sluggish for the rest of the day? Then you find
friends like mine and they go to the after hours.
No.
They didn't even invite me.
Oh.
Even when I drank, they were like, I would be like, where are you going? They're like, yeah, we're going to after hour. We didn't think you don't want to go, do you? I'd be like, no.
So let's help the people out that are listening. What can someone do to help them get, kind of alcohol out of?
Well, first, I think it's a choice. I will say like no one should drink, but I also don't have that conversation with people. I think if you're curious, you should just try it. You should put yourself in the environment where you would normally drink and not drink. It's all about timing, you have
to want to do it.
You have to want to do it. For like, also now, as you know, I'm plant-based, but like my friend Laura and I would talk about, she's been vegan for a long time, and she would, press it on me sometimes, and I'd be like, I'm not ready yet. I hear you, I see you, but like, it's not my thing right now. But I'm going to stick that on this back burner, and it's here for me. And I feel like with alcohol too, it's personal. It's like when you want to start like, sleeping better, better skin, all the things like inflammation, like you'll just feel better, but you really have to try it.
Yeah. You can't have like, I'm thinking about like January. It's like, oh, I'm going to do my month of sobriety in January. And then you're like, oh, but the NFL playoffs and, my team's in it. So I'm just going to get like, you have to like.
I will say like I played that game, and October was the perfect month in my opinion, because it's like after summer, it's after Labor Day, but like before the holidays. So you're not sacrificing the holidays.
And if you make it 31 days, you can have a Halloween party to celebrate.
Yeah, and there's no football. Like, is there football?
There's football.
Oh, there is football. Okay,
But
well,
it's not meaningful football.
yeah. I just felt like it was a good month to try it, and there wasn't so much hype around it. Like,
We should do like a sober October like group.
that'd be fun, but
see
I
what's
like doing it when there weren't a lot of people doing it. Like, I don't want to do sober January with like all my friends. Like, it kind of defeats the purpose. It's like, it's kind of a personal journey.
Yeah.
So I just like decided, I was like, I need a cleanse. But I will say I got to the end of October and was like, I felt good, but I was like, where's that euphoric feeling that everyone's talking about? Like, I didn't have like a moment of like where it all came together and like the sobriety just like hit the fast lane, and like I could just feel it like sink in on me that like I thought that like you were going to see an immediate shift. And some people say they experienced that, but I don't think I did. I mean,
because you were too busy FaceTiming me every night.
Probably. But yeah, I feel like, it was, I didn't miss it. I just continued to not drink. I think the biggest takeaway from it was that when I was drinking, I felt like I was in charge of the decision. It wasn't like girls brunch, bottomless mimosas, and everyone's like looking around, they see it on the menu and they're like, should we? It like wasn't a part of the plan. You're doing it? Well, then I guess I have to. Like, it just felt like I was making the decision, and I felt like I had more strength to make the decision of what I wanted to do that day, whether it was get drunk or not. Whereas before it just felt like it's like that's what everybody's doing.
So we talked a little bit about food. We talked about alcohol, and I think we had a good conversation about that. But we also talked a little bit about food. We talked about pizza, and I knew what was going to happen. We barely scratched the surface on anything. Well, I mean, that's not true. We talked a lot about you, but I'm saying like the amount of things that I had listed of potential topics. We're going to have to come back at a later time, but we were talking about food, and my lovely girlfriend has not consumed two foods that I would venture to say 97% of America has consumed. And that would be Peeps and a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Can you please tell me how the H you are American and 31 years old and you have not consumed a peanut butter and jelly sandwich?
Yeah, it was a ham and cheese kid. My sister was a PB&J kid, and I was a ham and cheese kid.
Okay.
And I didn't like peanut butter growing up.
Interesting.
And then
why?
It's like dry and
good old Jif, good old Peter Pan.
I think yeah, we were a Jif household,
We
I
were
think.
a Jif household too. We don't let Jif in this house anymore.
It wasn't sweet enough. I don't know.
Even though there's grams of sugar in there.
Yeah, I don't know.
But like ham and cheese, like
honey ham with Velveeta slice.
But like
and butter. I have butter on my sandwich. It's a French thing. Yeah, I'm from Missouri.
You made your lunch today was bands of noodles with butter, and
everyone was jealous.
They were. It
slapped. He said it was a 12 out of 10.
It was delicious.
I've elevated along the way. I mean, I used to make it with like country crock and like egg noodles. Now it's like gluten-free bonza with like Miyoko's coconut oil, butter with a splash of oat milk and garlic powder.
And
nutritional yeast. So it's like a high protein, nutrient dense bowl.
This video podcast is going to turn into some of your recipes.
It's possible.
On this
episode, but tonight we're eating Peeps.
We're eating Peeps.
Yes, I've never had a Peep.
Easter's coming, so
are they flavored?
Peeps are not flavored. However, we were talking about how she has never had a peep before. And we were talking about like the questions that she had. And she was like, there's a pink peep and a blue peep and a yellow peep. Are all those flavored? And I said, peeps are not flavored until I went to Target this year. And then I feel like they've done a collab with like Starburst.
Is it just a marshmallow?
It is a sugared marshmallow.
So like, do people make s'mores with them? Because I feel like that would be a vibe.
People make s'mores with them, I guess. That's a
I
great
would.
thing. I never have. People put them in the microwave. They blow up. If you put them in the microwave, they expand.
So I'll just eat one instead.
I personally like to open the package and let them sit for a good 1 to 2 days. And then the sugar on the outside is like crusty and hard.
Oh, do you have more for that?
We do. We're going to do that later. So without further ado, what are you going to go with first?
I feel like I have to go PB and J.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
Stressed. Now I'm going to have to figure out my new 2 truths and a lie for... Because I always say I've never had a
your
PB.
peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Now it's going to now be false.
Facts. All right. We have strawberry jelly and we have almond butter.
It's not toasted. Like now it's like I've just never had one because people are like, oh, if you have them, make sure it's toasted or
Well, you're having the
grape
regular.
jelly and I'm a strawberry girl and, you know, crunchy or not.
Take a bite. Thoughts?
I'm not upset.
Great. I wouldn't expect you to be.
I put a banana inside.
I would too.
When I started eating peanut butter, I would do peanut butter, banana, and honey. Because the banana wasn't enough sugar at that point in my time,
Right.
I guess. And I'm sure it was on like honey wheat bread. Or Hawaiian rolls or something.
This is Hawaiian sweet from, I think, Canyon. Is it Canyon Valley? The gluten-free that we like?
It's actually delicious.
It really is. And we will toast one again.
I'm going to finish this after.
Okay. So we're not chewing on the rest of the podcast?
Mm-hmm. But that's really good.
See what you've been missing out on for 31 years? All right, you ready? Time for the peep.
Why'd you pick yellow?
Because it was at Ralph's when I first walked in.
And why'd you pick bunnies over peeps?
But okay, so even though they're called peeps, and you would think that I don't know the stat, but I would guess that the bunny is purchased more than the actual peep.
Oh.
People just like the bunny more. Unflavored.
Looks
Yellow.
flavored.
Marshmallow with sugar. Here we go.
I'm very stressed about this bite. I don't know why.
Just go whole head. Just take off the head. It's like different than like a marshmallow you would put on a s'more. It's like lighter. But if you enjoy these, you can put a whole row down in under 5 minutes.
I feel like they don't taste like anything.
Like I said, it's sugar on top of sugar.
Doesn't taste like anything, but I'm going to keep eating it.
Sounds about right. While you enjoy that rest of that peep, I just want to say thank you for coming on the Aaron Dodge Show, my first episode since 2020. It was great having you. We talked a lot about your school, your early life, how you got out to LA, the pandemic, how our relationship started, and then you got to check off 2 food items you've never consumed before. Who would have thunk it?
Wow.
All from our cute little apartment in Hollywood. Thanks for being on the pod, babe. I love you.
Love you too. Thanks for having me.
Bye.
See you soon.
See you in there. What do they call like the show after? This is what Chicken would come on.
Watch What Happens Live.
Watch What Happens Live with Chicken, Nigel Chicken.
Hello. I ate a PB&J. Unchaperoned.
Where did the chicken voice come from?
because I live alone and needed to talk to someone that didn't feel like myself.
When I first moved in, she said, "You think that I talk like chicken a lot? This is what our relationship has been like for the last 10 years." Like, she'll walk in the door and she'll say, "Hey, chicken, how you doing?" And then chicken will say,
Doing pretty good, Chelsea. Long day and nothing.
I've tried to. I do the voice too. I've tried to, but Chelsea.
He loves it.
I love it. It's best because, as I'm sure a lot of people that own dogs, I mean, we are his voice. So like whatever we think he's saying, like we just say it, and it just makes the other person just crack up. Even
It's almost his birthday.
when's his birthday?
May.
May.
We're Geminis.
2 personalities. There's 4 personalities on the other side of the table.
4 for the price of 2.
Love you, Chickles.
Love you, daddy. Waddy.